course.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I'm actually a little curious, and forgive me if this is impolite, like I'm curious why you wanted to talk to us. What do you
Jesus Christ.
I'm just being really real with you. I don't really hear what you say if you are still supporting a genocide in Gaza. And
Oh my God. What did I say before? That one of the biggest issues that these brain-rotted lefty dipshits had is one of the reasons why I won't build a bridge to Kyle Kuklinski or these people is that every single issue collapses into the black hole that is fucking Gaza? Holy shit. What the f?
Joining us now, Senator.
Okay, let's see if we can get through this before our show tonight. Good luck.
Alyssa Slotkin of Michigan. Senator, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We have a very limited amount of time. This is the internet, so you're here, and it's important that we ask some of the questions that are animating some of the younger voters and others. I assume that's part of the reason that you're here. The first is about Jeffrey Epstein. This is a story that's really captured a lot of America's interest. So you're a former CIA officer. Do you think that Jeffrey Epstein had any connections to U.S. or Israeli intelligence agencies?
So, not that I've ever seen or heard, but there's No, I haven't asked. But this is like a solvable question.
Have you asked who? So, in case you don't know, okay, we like to pretend that the FBI or the CIA, every single agent is Jason Bourne. Basically, you go to work every day, you have like the computer, and if you have like a certain level of classification, it means that you can see every single thing at that level. So people who have like top secret clearance can go and look at every single top secret project across the entire government. And okay, that's not how it actually works. People go to work, they have very limited information sets that they're working with. Maybe if you work in like upper management or you're like very high up, you might have like a bird's eye view of some things. But the idea that you can just like go into the office and ask somebody, like, hey, can you give me all the information on this other thing that's not related to my work or job at all? It's like that just doesn't, you can't really do that, but.
Because President Trump's CIA director, John Radcliffe, can answer this question, right? There is no shortage of people in this administration who can answer that question. I would be very surprised. I'm going to be honest. I know your views on it. I would be surprised.
Okay.
But I'm like a Middle East analyst. I was doing my time going after terrorist groups and militias in Iraq. And so I never saw it. I never heard anything about that. I, again, would be surprised, but there's an easy way to solve that problem.
Well, that's the question then. So in terms of, because I know you've expressed some concern about classified information, et cetera, in the past, would you be fine then with a full release of these Trump Epstein files, even if they did reveal an intelligence connection?
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, like, it's such a distraction from, in my mind, like what I really care about, which is helping people like live well in Michigan. Just get it over with and get it out. And this wasn't like my issue. It's still not the thing that wakes me up in the morning and I want to work on. But I think it's okay to say it's a full distraction now in Washington. Everyone's talking about it. So just unveil it, do whatever you need to do, answer the questions, and move past it.
Well, that's the last question then. So there's some accusations here from the Republicans on Epstein here, just about, why didn't you care for over 4 years? I know you asked the question in 2020, you said I don't care particularly about Bill Clinton, et cetera. I mean, that's somewhat understandable, but, we do have like a person, very suspicious circumstances, let alone, the sex trafficking organization and others. So, why don't you answer that question? Like, why is this now is the time that you do care?
Yeah,
I mean,
obviously, it's horrible when you have a pedophile and someone who had a literal pyramid scheme of recruiting 14 and 15-year-old girls for illegal sex. I mean, it's horrible. At the time, I mean, I sort of saw it as like one of these horrible stories that comes out every 5 months, about somebody.
Okay, there was sex trafficking for sure. Was it a pyramid scheme though? Where you promise like if you bring in 2 girls and then another person under you brings in 2 girls, then you'll get upgraded to like the super duper, like the 7-star pedo kitty fucker thing? Like, I don't know if it was a pyramid scheme. I feel like that's...
I think the Weinstein thing had happened. There weren't Michiganders, to my knowledge, who were involved, women, young girls who were involved. So I kind of saw it as like a horrible moment, but not particularly something that's like going to decide whether someone in my state can buy a house.
Didn't they get some of the girls to recruit other girls? Oh, did they actually? Maybe it was a pyramid scheme. Maybe it was. Jesus.
House or get a good job. So to me, it was just like it wasn't like a strategic issue, right, for me. And then now it just is like grown. And I think there is a difference between saying some rich guy or a former politician was named in those things versus the president of the United States. That to me is apples to oranges, because one of them is leading the free world and one of them's not. So if his name is in there as it appears it is, just like deal with it and let's get on with it at this point. And, my 10-year-old nephew understands that the president is trying to dodge, trying to distract, trying to talk about other things. He hates answering this question. Like, we get it. So it feels off to the average person, right? To a 10-year-old, they're like, did he do something, right? So just get through it, get it out, and let's move on to real economic issues.
So then if piece of legislation comes forward, you would vote for it to support the release of the files. Okay, all right. So then let's talk about the future of the Democratic Party, and that's something you've been interested in. Democratic approval hit an all-time low from the Wall Street Journal. At the same time, we've seen the rise more recently of anti-establishment candidates, people like Zoran Mamdani. Give us some of your thoughts there about the future of the Democratic Party, and particularly in the context of Mamdani's victory in New York City.
Well, I guess as a good Midwesterner and Michigander, I'm never going to say that what happens in New York City represents all of America. Sorry, we're a big country, and I would never pretend to totally understand New York City politics. I didn't particularly understand Eric Adams. I didn't particularly understand, I genuinely, right? But I think the message and the hot take out of that election is actually not terribly dissimilar from what we heard in the November election when Trump won, right? Which is people are still focused on the cost of living and not being able to achieve what they thought they could achieve, right? And then number two, people are looking for a new generation of leadership. I don't think it's hard to miss those hot takes. I can have plenty of disagreements with what I've heard Mr. Mamdani propose, and I do. But that message coming out of that election...
What do you disagree with?
Just, my family was a fourth generation hot dog business. Like, I am here because we live the American dream through capitalism. Okay. And so, like a lot of free stuff, to me, is not the answer. I don't think it's sustainable. I don't think that it actually fixes the underlying problem. But I can have those disagreements. I think this is I would be thrilled to have that conversation with him or anyone else about hey, we agree that there's an economic problem here. What we do to solve it, let's have that debate. And adults can debate and not want to kill each other's children.
Well, let's talk then about leadership. So you just talked about that. We see a lot of that from our shows, and the Democratic side of our audience is furious with Democratic leadership. I mean, do you still support Chuck Schumer's leadership? He doesn't get an interview in about a month.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I've now served in the Senate for 6 months, in the House before that. Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries have hard jobs. Herding cats, it's not fun. I've said for a very long time, long before I got into the Senate and long before President Biden dropped out, that we need a new generation of leadership. You can feel it in, and I think at this point, especially New York, right? You're looking at New York, it's I'd rather roll the dice with someone new than have the warmed over leftovers that I've already known. So I think we have a problem with that across the board. And I think one of the things I can do as the youngest Democratic woman in the Senate, and I'm not young, I'm just young for the Senate, to be clear.
You're young for us.
Yeah. I mean, is push on that and try to give younger leaders a voice in this party in a very real way. Yeah. And to me, that's upward pressure. That pressure that you're talking about from the people is good.
So then shouldn't they endorse him? I mean, what kind of a message, Schumer and Jeffries, shouldn't they endorse?
They're both from New York.
They're both New Yorkers.
Yeah.
And what kind of a message does it send if, this guy won the Democratic primary? Yeah. He's the Democratic nominee. It was overwhelming. If then the centrist leadership of the party said, we can't get behind it.
I mean, you just asked me before we started the exact same question about the Michigan Senate primary, and I'm like, Michigan Democrats don't get involved in primaries. We all are friends. So I can't speak to what they're doing. I think, I hope that they're meeting. I mean, if this person is...
They did.
Yeah, okay,
and Hakeem Jeffries still refused to endorse him. I mean, think about it from this context. Let's say in 2028, a more moderate figure wins the Democratic primary and a bunch of progressives. Yeah.
Why do they always give this fucking example? People do it with Israel. People do it with me. People do it with... Now they're doing it with center-left people. They're like, can you imagine what would happen in the future if a center-left candidate won a primary and now the far left refuses to endorse them? You mean what has always happened? Always? Nothing would change. That would just be the status quo. It's so empty and hollow and stupid when people bring out this line of dialogue. You're like, well, could you imagine if a moderate won the primary and the far left said, fuck you? Now, I will say, to be fair to Crystal Ball, Crystal was one of the very few unabashedly supportive people of voting for not Trump, of voting for the Democrat, okay? When she argued with Jen, she was very based in that conversation. But I'm just saying that, there is not a single conservative, or I'm sorry, moderate, it was there's not a single moderate Dem in the entire country who's thinking oh my God, if we don't support the super progressive now, what if the progressives don't support us, the super progressives don't support us in the future? That's already the status quo.
AOC or whoever says, we're not backing, we don't agree with you. Yeah. I feel like you would have a problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I will say this. The way that this party works is when there's a coalition that sticks together. That's a numbers issue. That's a data issue. And so I'm always going to be someone who's trying to find unity. That doesn't mean we all agree with each other. And I think, I wasn't in the conversations where they met privately. What they debated, what they talked about, I don't know. But to me, we got to figure out what's common among all Democrats right now. And that's why I focus on the economy, because that is...
What the fuck is a senior senator? It's when in high... I don't know. Sorry, there was a dumb joke. You have two senators from each state. You've got one that was elected most recently. You've got the one that was elected before that person, and you call the first one elected, I think, the senior, and then you've got the junior senator, senior senator.
To me, the cost of living and people not being able to achieve what their parents achieved is the existential issue of our time, is the unifying issue of all the right-wing, left-wing, Americans. I don't even think it's a Democratic Party thing. And to me, that's where I spend my time, because I think 80% of my constituents in Michigan, that's where they live, is I just want to be able to go to Disneyland and take my kids the way my dad took me. So that's where I focus on. I'm happy to sit down with any leader.
Hold on. What did I say? What did I say about making the rounds on podcasts about how, and this also ties into that tweet we read yesterday, where people were like, why didn't Kamala Harris go on all these podcasts? I'm like, well, think about it. If you're a conservative and you go on podcasts, okay, one, you just avoid all the left-leaning podcasts. Fuck that. You go on the right-wing ones and you go on the centrist ones. You're going to be glazed like crazy on all of these, right? Look at the performativity that Joe Rogan has right now, where he's like, why are none of these people being serious about the Epstein shit? But Joe Rogan had Kash Patel on. Joe Rogan had all of these people from the CIA, the FBI. He didn't push on any of these motherfuckers about Epstein shit. He asked one softball footsie, butterflies in the wind question, and then he moves on immediately to the next thing. And now he's acting all indignant that we're not getting more information about it. And one of the things I said is well, if you're a left-wing candidate, like a Democratic candidate, you're going to get grilled everywhere you fucking go. I'm not about to watch a senator from Michigan, okay, which is this is a contested state, okay, battleground state. She's not about to get fucking roasted and grilled. Why the fuck is she being asked about Mamdani, the most like far leftist kind of mayor primary winner figure in the United States. Why would you even put her on the spot like this? Why would you even ask this fucking question? Like, it's a little bit ridiculous, but also like, geez, well, at least like let her answer gracefully. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
I can't speak to their particular decision to endorse or not. I'm not endorsing in my own.
Because I said, like, for Kamala, I said, like, well, if Kamala would have gone on these shows, she probably would have taken it from literally every single side, from the conservatives, from the centers, and from the left who would have attacked her. But we'll see. Who knows?
Well, that's where I focus on. I'm happy to sit down with any leader. I can't speak to their particular decision to endorse or not. I'm not endorsing in my own.
Right, but just
primary.
yes, last
Yeah, but
summit.
he won the primary.
Right, that's my question.
That's what's different.
Thanks. We didn't know. Thank you.
By 12, I'm
By
sorry,
12 points.
they have another election though, yeah?
A general election.
General
Yeah,
election.
he was the Democrat.
Was that passive aggressive? No, well, they had a primary. They do have a general right. Yeah. Okay.
Democratic nominee.
I see. I'm sorry. This is why I'm saying I don't follow New York politics, and I think you'd have to ask them. I don't know. I know that for me, whoever wins the Democratic primary in the state of Michigan for the Senate seat that's up, that's who I will endorse, regardless of who it is.
All right, that was my last question. So I'm going to turn it to Chris.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I'm actually a little curious, and forgive me if this is impolite. Like, I'm curious why you wanted to talk to us.
What do you
Jesus Christ. What?
Well, like, we don't have actually a lot of senators, especially ones who have very different ideology than us, reach out. So I'm curious what your goal was and why you thought to come here.
Well, first of all, I think you have a good audience. I mean, right?
We agree.
If you appeal to like 4 friends on YouTube or whatever, then I probably wouldn't be here. But I think to me, part of the problem is that people have kind of gone to their corners. And I live this, right? I live on my family farm in a town that voted heavily for Donald Trump. I've never won my town. I've never won my precinct. I've never won my neighbors. We get along, but I never won them, and I probably never will. So to me, I think that the people have gone to their corners, and like people who used to be able to talk about politics and disagree don't even get in the same room together. So I kind of like the idea of your show. Like, it was interesting to me when my team pitched me, right? We go through, and like, there's no hiding it. Lots of people are like, how do we evolve in this new space? You know, like that's not it's not that conversation isn't happening. It is, and I think that's good, and to the credit of lots of shows like yours.
Yeah.
But I think your show appealed to me as I was being pitched because you guys don't agree. And like, I am very focused. My dad was a lifelong Republican. My mom a lifelong Democrat. Like, Michiganders want to get back to a place where we can disagree on politics and not have it be so like bitter.
So I hear you on the idea of like you want to talk about economics and the unifying and cost of living, and I think that ignores a big elephant in the room, especially when you're talking about even Zoran Mamdani. The reason Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer don't want to endorse him is because of his position on Israel. The single most viral clip that he had.
Is that the only reason? I feel like Mamdani just in general is like quite far left of the party. I don't think you necessarily need the whole Democratic Party to rally around him. The actual answer, what the real answer, right? Forget all this Israel bullshit or whatever, is Crystal and Sager, not Sager, I'm sorry. Crystal and the rest of like the progressives, now that they finally have a far left candidate winning a fucking primary, at least now they finally have, they want him to be like the spiritual fucking leader of the entire Democratic Party. And it is so fucking cringe how hard they're trying to force it. They're trying to act like Mamdani is going to be like the new face of the entire Democratic Party because he won the primary and maybe the general for the New York election. It's like, bro, chill, okay? Jesus.
In that election actually wasn't about cost of living, even though that's what he wanted to make his campaign about. His opponents, Andrew Cuomo in particular, wanted to make it all about accusing him of anti-Semitism and attacking him for his views on Israel and Palestine. So the most viral moment from that entire campaign, I believe, was this moment on the debate stage. Guys, this is E1. Let me go ahead and play this for you, and then I want to get your reaction.
Mr. Mamdani.
I would say in New York City, my plans are to address New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs and focus on that.
Mr. Mamdani, can I just jump in? Would you visit Israel as mayor?
I will be doing, as the mayor, I'll be standing up for Jewish New Yorkers and I'll be meeting them wherever they are across the 5 boroughs, whether that's in their synagogues and temples or at their homes or the subway platform, because ultimately we need to focus on delivering on their concerns.
And just yes or no, do you believe in a Jewish state of Israel?
I believe Israel has the right to exist.
As a Jewish state?
As a state with equal rights.
Now, this was considered very controversial when he said it, and I think the results are in at this point that he didn't win in spite of his position there. He won in part because of it, including if you listen to Andrew Cuomo's numbers, he won a majority of Jewish voters inside of New York City. And so what I'm curious for your view on is, while, you know, I would love to debate you on your healthcare policy, I think we need Medicare for all, you think public option, your housing policy, et cetera. I'm just being really real with you. I don't really hear what you say if you are still supporting a genocide in Gaza. And
Oh my God. What did I say before? That one of the biggest issues that these brain rotted lefty dipshits had is one of the reasons why I won't build a bridge to Kyle Kuklinski and these people is that every single issue collapses into the black hole that is fucking Gaza. Holy shit. What the fuck? I will not support. By the way, if there are people that are doing this like, I'm allegiant to Israel and I think Jews are the best in the world and I want to go masturbate at the Wailing Wall and I want to eat all of Netanyahu's cum and blah, blah, blah. Those people are fucking cringe as fuck, okay? Call them Zog, whatever the fuck you want. It is equally cringe, though, to throw your entire country under the fucking bus for Hamas, okay, and the Palestinians. I'm sorry. If you think that all of the weird foreign allegiance to Israel shit is cringe, fine. You know, I'll meet you halfway. I'll probably even meet you more than halfway on that, okay? Because the only interest I have in Israel is insofar as it serves fucking U.S. interests. But if you're willing to use that argument, but then on the other side you go, I'm sorry, battleground state, Michigan, I need to know exactly what you're going to do to ensure that we have a one-state solution where all of the Palestinians get the right to return back to their land, and we're going to fight against Israel. And it's like, excuse me, what the fuck? What the fuck are we talking about right now?
And that's for me, I'm speaking for myself, but I know there are millions of other people who feel the same, that you have to at least cross this sort of moral threshold. And what it indicates to people, and I think part of why, Zoran won so many people in New York City, young people in particular, but Jewish New Yorkers, people across the board, is because it was a sign of, number one, okay, you're focused on New York City first and foremost.
What is this tweet from Kyle Kuklinski? What? Oh, there's Glenn Dipshittenstein. Wow, a Dem senator actually went on a show that asked tough questions to the usual captured outlets. Credit where it's due. Oh, never mind. He did a nice tweet. I'm sorry. Kuklinski said, no credit. She saw it was a left-right show and thought it was some centristy beltway bullshit. She had no clue what she signed up for, and she learned her lesson the hard way. Yeah, okay, fuck. Where was my... I feel like there's like 20 clips of me saying why Kamala or whatever wouldn't make the rounds on any podcast is because she would just get fucking obliterated from all sides. This is a great example of that.
Foremost. Sure. Number two, you're willing to take the heat on an issue that is really difficult for you, where you're being overtly smeared as an anti-Semite. And number three, there's no, entrenched interest that's going to control you. You have a spine, you have principles, you're willing to stand up for something. And so, I'm curious for your reflections on that because of your voting record and where you stood on this conflict.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the proudest moments that I had in my last election, where I just won on the same ballot as Donald Trump, was that I won a majority of Jewish voters in Michigan. We have a large Jewish population. And I won Dearborn Heights, and Hamtramck, the three Muslim-dominated cities. Trump won 2 out of the 3. So I think the thing that I would push back on is the voters vote with their feet, right? We have a moment in an election where they get to decide. And there was no issue that was more difficult for me in this last, I would say 6 years, but certainly in this last election, other than this issue, because it's personal. I'm a Middle East analyst by training. And so what I tried to do, and why I think I managed to win both those communities, is call balls and strikes, literally up to this week on what's going on.
So let's talk a little bit more about that.
But I think it's important, right? If you're going to push on me, then I think like there's one of us that's had an election and had to appeal to my voters and win. And so it doesn't surprise me at all that Mr. Mamdani.
Ooh, don't bring up winning elections because nothing triggers progressives harder than pointing out the fact that they fucking get annihilated in all of their fucking elections.
Won. Or actually, I didn't know his name. I didn't know much about him until he won. But because I think this issue is motivating people in a very visceral and personal way.
Yeah.
But it's not the only issue that my voters in Michigan care about.
Of course.
And the online world is extremely, extremely focused on this, but that doesn't always represent the majority. And I think if I can push back, like we're out on the road every day in Michigan when I'm there. In some communities, that issue is the number one issue, 100%. And like, I mean, up till this morning, right? Like people texting my phone and talking about a plan, something we're working on. But I go outside the Detroit area, it's not in the top 40. But Senator, it's not just a political issue, it's also a moral issue, is what I'm trying to get to. So let's talk about those, calling the balls and strikes, if you will. So first of all, do you accept that Israel has a policy
that they're committing a genocide and they are an apartheid state?
Of enforced famine and starvation in the Gaza Strip?
I think I literally put my name on a letter yesterday or last night that says like, a policy of starvation, people are starting to starve. And in general, I mean, I served in places like Ramadi and Fallujah. I watched in 2004 and 2005, Al-Qaeda terrorists drag American citizens behind a vehicle until they died, right? Like horrible, and then string them up like a lynching.
Okay.
We still had a responsibility to get aid into Fallujah, despite the fact that we were fighting Al-Qaeda cells in Fallujah, and I have been clear about that.
So this is a crime against humanity. Forced starvation is a crime against humanity.
The occupying power has
Oh my god, dude, she's actually so fucking cringe.
responsibility to get aid into the war zone. Period.
So
by the law of war.
So in addition, do you accept that the Israeli plan, as reported
She's literally going for gotchas, like she's trying to do fucking TikTok reels. Holy shit.
Haaretz, as discussed openly by ministers like Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, as backed by the President of the United States, is forced ethnic cleansing?
I think we have, as recently as yesterday, the Prime Minister of Israel talking about forced migration into certain areas and then potentially out of the country. That is not legal. That is not on any international standard since World War II. And I've been clear about that. So I would ask for a little bit of an open mind.
Well, what I would ask is, listen, I'm a YouTuber. I have my words. That's all I have. But you're a United States Senator. Like you're not the president, but you have power. So what are you going to do? Because so far what we've seen, I mean, you voted for some of the aid that's been used to massacre children and innocents. You have backed Israel, as far as I can tell, from your voting record at almost every turn. You voted for a definition of anti-Semitism that would, codify anti-Zionism as anti-Semitism. You voted as a member of the House to sanction the ICC for indicting Benjamin Netanyahu, who you just admitted is a war criminal, by your own words. So are you going to join Senator Angus King, Senator Bernie Sanders in saying no more aid to this country that is committing war crimes against innocent civilians?
I think the first thing, if you're asking about what to do with power, and I would offer that right now, Democrats own nothing in Washington.
Yeah, I was going to say, get Democrats elected.
So
don't play powerless with me. You're a United States Senator. There are things you can do.
In terms of who runs our foreign
Yeah, there are things you can do.
policy, I just think it's interesting, right, that there was a ton of protests when Democrats were in charge.
There was a protest.
Oh, true. And for some reason, all of them fucking disappeared as soon as Trump went office.
In Manhattan yesterday.
Okay.
Oh, good job. Good. Wow. Protests in Manhattan. Nice.
I think it's fair to say, just to be honest, that back and forth, like the number of protests that go on now
Have significantly declined.
before
Well, they
it's
were
very
part of your
different.
political coalition.
Well, that's
right?
not, I mean, that's
fair.
fucking, that's fair.
No,
Honestly,
they weren't. No. What?
I'm here.
Yeah.
I was very upset over the Biden administration policy. And as you can tell, I'm very upset over the Trump administration policy. So let's deal not in strawman, but meet
Okay, but
here
in
and
terms
now.
of what, so the tools that I have, the tools that we have in general, to me, the most important thing is a pressurized campaign to get aid into people who are starving. That to me is the number one, because that's the one is urgent and today. And that,
But will you cut off aid to Israel so long as they're committing crimes against humanity?
there is a difference between a weapon to protect a country from incoming missiles versus other type. Offensive and defensive weapons are different.
So would you support offensive weapons ban? Like, would you stop any offensive aid to Israel?
That certainly, to me, would be a place to look, but I'm not going to cut off a blanket next sale on a defensive weapon.
I
that
also,
comes through. No.
I also reject that because, for example, if Senator Sokkin, if you were asked to support defensive weapons for Iran, defensive weapons for Russia, you wouldn't back that.
No, but Iran, I mean, but
They're defensive. They're
What is that comparison? Okay. All right. Take a deep breath, everybody. Wish us luck.